we've been studying the book of Samuel. Last week, we did a study on Romans, but we've been studying the book of Samuel, and what we was in the story of King Saul and David. So when we opened up the book talking about how um, the Israelites wanted to have a different government. I don't think you guys. I don't know if you guys recognize that, but that's what they were asking for. Um, since the beginning of Israel's coming into the promised land and doing that, they had been God and what we would call judges and also prophets. So God would tell the judge or the prophet what to do, and then they will follow. And that type of government is called theocracy. It's called theocracy. Um, and it's basically just saying that we are governed by a theocratic rule. So it's governed by God, and you handle you whatever your religion is, or whatever that religious belief is. That's what governs the land. So that is how Israel started. Is
Can turn off your camera because we can't. You're frozen. You
sin
froze.
governs it. You got froze again. Okay, let me turn on my camera. Okay, let me see. Okay, internet is acting up or whatever. So I'm nice today. All right. So can you guys hear me? You still can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. All right. So we here, like I said, Israel wanted to be governed. God set up a kingdom where it was a theocratic rule, meaning that they were governed by God, and they wanted to be like the other nations and be governed by one man, which is a monarchy. Um, so if we look at, let's go here, look at here. This is when the elders came to Samuel, which was the prophet of that day. Like I said, they was governed by a theocratic rule, and that means that they were governed by God, but they had Samuel as the prophet at that time. So the elders came to him and he said, so all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah or Ramah. And they said to him, you are old and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nation has, such as all the other nations have. I'm gonna say it again, such as all the other nations have. But when they said what but when they said, give us a king to lead us, this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are doing to you. So they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his right. Do you guys get what's going on right now?
Wild. That was wild to me.
They have it's crazy because they literally have been brought up out of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? God has really been just, leading their life. They've been experiencing you know, great prosperity with God. And now they're saying, look, I don't want none of that. I want to be, you know what I'm saying? I want to be like you. I want to be like other. other kingdoms, other nations, or whatever. I want to have a monarchy. I want a man to actually rule me.
Do you think that they felt that way because they had spent so much time being led by a man when they were in Egypt? Remember, that was generations that grew
Mm,
up being led by a human. And even though they were not Egyptian, Pharaoh ruled over them, right? And,
mm,
in the grand scheme of things, I think for the Israelites, they were like, look, we already know what time it is with Pharaoh. So it's like, if you just put your head down, do your work, whatever, you'll be good. Because I don't think people realize the Israelites did not live. Like, I think when people think of slavery, we only think of, living in the backyard of the master's house, pretty much working their land, working in the house, whatever, making money for them because you doing the work they're supposed to be doing to make the money that they're making, right? You're their
mm,
employee, but they mistreat you.
mm.
In with the Israelites, they lived in Goshen. So
Uh,
they had to travel to work every day. When they went to Egypt, they had to go to Egypt to go to work for this Pharaoh.
mm,
So they were going about their regular lives, they were living their lives, they were doing all of these things. And then all of a sudden, Moses comes and he's like, listen, God told me that I need to take y'all from up out of here, and you guys need to start back worshiping him, and you need to follow him. That's your God now. That's
mm.
literally what happened.
That is literally what happened. But it's what's crazy is when you look back at the Garden of Eden, this same type of dilemma came up. Uh, God established a theocratical rule which he governed Adam and Eve and told them what to do, but then they wanted to define good and evil for themselves. So they allow Eve allowed her perspective of God to change. How did she do that? Because she said, you know what? The enemy came into her ear. Hey, what you think about this tree over here? And she like, the God told me not to touch that tree. You know what I'm saying? Or I surely would die. And he's like, man, God didn't say it. Say, man, he just don't want you, you know what I'm saying, to touch that tree because he know you'll be like him. You won't die. And right then we gave the government to the enemy.
Mm.
Right then we gave the government to the enemy. And all throughout the Bible, what God is trying to do is reconcile us back into a governing body of a theocratical rule. He wants us to come back into under his
Government.
protection, his
Yeah.
government,
Government.
his laws and everything. He wants us to come back into the fold, and he wants to govern us the correct way. It was so amazing what Jay has said is like, what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And I think Tasha was talking about anticipating the future and not knowing what's going on. What do you want to be in a government where you can actually look at the like what's going to happen years down the line?
Mm. And you know that all the decisions made are going to be for your good ultimately. Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Jay about to say something.
It's freezing. No, I just said, yeah, I would like to know, have a government where I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing. Darain, I think Darain about to say something,
He
or
just
she
came
just coming
on.
in.
Hey,
Okay,
Darain.
cool. Hey, Darain, how y'all doing? Michelle is in the building. What's
Hey,
happening?
Michelle.
All right. Yeah, what do you I mean, it's truly amazing. Like, right now, we're literally in the election and oh my goodness, look at you, Lord. Look at how you about to put this thing together. I want y'all to listen carefully. Um, when you thinking about what is the biggest what is the biggest drawback from I always say this wrong, Kamala? or Camilla, or how you say her name again? I'm sorry, I definitely don't want to disrespect the
Kamala.
black woman. I don't want to disrespect the disrespect the black woman. You know what I'm saying? But Kamala, what is the biggest draw? What is the biggest drawback with Kamala? What is the people saying about Kamala?
Basically, she's all left. You
And
know,
she's too against.
she wants to, give money for transgenders. Basically, she's against pro-life, or there's a whole bunch of different things, but mostly she's gone left.
Yeah, but the biggest drawback I've been seeing that everybody said like this is the biggest thing is I don't know much about her. Everybody keeps saying that. I don't know what she's gonna do. Like they say all of that other stuff after they say that. Cause they were like, oh yeah, I really don't know much about Kamala because when she was working over here, she was this, and when she was working over here, she was that. And it's like they just give her a lot of slack for that. You know what I'm saying? And it works to her. It's like a disadvantage. You know what I'm saying? Like because it's so crazy because me and Nas were looking at a documentary, and I might put it in the chat or whatever so you guys can check it out. But everything that she has done is just been put on display, so it's been documented what she's done. But they are very skeptical about what she's going to do when she's in office because sometimes she sways over here, like Michelle said, or she sway over there. And then you got the polar opposite is Donald Trump. He laid out all the way out on display for everyone to see, but his views and the way he sees things is he want more of a dictatorship. So that's a different type of government as well, where this one man has all the power and he doesn't want to give it up. I heard about the Project 2025, whatever it is. From what they say, hey, I'm trying to get it into a way where I don't have to ever give up this power or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We have other places, I think like North Korea is like that or whatever, where, they have just a dictatorship or whatever. So when you're thinking about these different things, like really think about the different governments. And what's so crazy about it is all the governments, spun from this one theocratical rule. God's kingdom. When you look in the Bible, it talks about God wanting to rule and be the ultimate source of balance and the ultimate source of law. Like I always say about this, it's like it's a universal law. What is the universal law? Well, one thing is we all know it's wrong to kill. We all know it's wrong to steal. We all know it's wrong to lie. You see what I'm saying? These are universal laws that it doesn't matter where you go, universally, this should uphold. But then as human beings, we like to kind of bend it a little bit because we say, well, it ain't too bad to kill if somebody doing this or they doing that. Well, it ain't too bad to lie if it's going to help this person out on here. Well, it ain't too bad to take these people thing because they don't really need it. You see what I'm saying? We're always constantly bending the universal law into our favor, and that's exactly what they did. I would say
The Israelites.
Eve did it.
So,
Eve did in the garden.
yeah.
She wanted to bend the rules, or you know what I'm saying, bend them but don't break them. Bend them but don't break them, and that's what we do. So I thought it was so interesting. Just to set you guys up is uh the next series that we're going to tackle the gospel. So the gospel is a story of Jesus. There are four books. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so we're gonna tackle that because I think that we need to put things into perspective. I think we need to start. It's funny because yes, Genesis is the first book in the Bible, but I think that as new believers or believers that just trying to get back acclimated or whatever, if you're not if you haven't been if you're not mature in your faith or you feel like, I wouldn't say mature in your faith. I would say if you are wavering or anything like that, we need to go back to the gospel, because the reason why the whole story of the Bible, I mean, the whole Bible is about Jesus and what he has done for us on the cross. And the gospel is the good news. You know what I'm saying? So last week I told you guys the biggest thing of the good news is that we have a savior. And oh my goodness, look at this. Exactly how the Israelites felt at the time of Jesus is how we feel now.
Mm.
How can? How is that? Right now, we are in search. We're seeking. We're like, man, I'm just so tired of just these people coming in and doing what they're doing. You know, you have the poor. It's such a we're so marginalized. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. The rich is getting richer. I feel like we in just wars that we don't need to be in. So many people doing what they doing, and I just want a sense of relief. I'm here to tell you guys, ever since they put Saul in office and became a monarchy, you know what I'm saying, in their government, they've been striving to get a Messiah. That's what, if you ever go and study the Jewish people, that's what they're in search of. They're in search of a Messiah. They're still waiting on a Messiah. They're like literally still waiting on a Messiah right now. They didn't believe in Jesus. Some of them didn't believe in Jesus, and they're literally waiting on a Messiah like King David.
And we're waiting on the Messiah because of the second coming.
We're waiting on the Messiah because of the second coming. Well, some of us are, but even oh Lord, look at this. Even if you're not a Christian, everybody is waiting on somebody to come into office and side with them. So they literally are waiting on a Messiah, somebody that's going to come into office and speak for them
and save them.
And save them. The rich are, because they like, man, if we get that boy Donald Trump in, then we can get these taxes and everything in our favor. Oh, then you got, the liberal, hey, we want to we want to have some Kamala, I'm sorry, that's her name, please.
Just call her Vice President Harris.
Vice President Harris, that we're gonna call her Vice President. I could definitely say Harris. Vice President Harris. And because she's gonna affect change. But what's so crazy is we don't understand they are men. And when I say men, I'm talking about the just human race. They are men. So they would never have the righteousness of God. And you would say, like, what is righteousness? His character. He's going to do the right thing all the time. When you go to the policies that Vice President Harris have and some of the policies that Donald Trump have, you're going to see things that might work in your favor, but you also going to see things that is not for everybody. But see, the funny thing about it is when we read Matthew, we're going to see a new government established. That's what Jesus was bringing. He was bringing a new government. We're going to read a story about. We're going to read a story of his cousin, which is why my mind, which John the Baptist. John the Baptist coming in. He's in the wilderness now. He's in the wilderness eating locusts and honey or whatever. This crazy man, you know what I'm saying, in the wilderness, and calling people to come out to the wilderness where they could prepare themselves for a new government. He said that the kingdom is near. Come and prepare your hearts or whatever. And what's so crazy, I had to ask God, I'm like, okay, I never looked at this before, but what was so interesting when I opened up the word last night and I was reading, I said, Lord, I never asked you, why was John in the wilderness calling out? Like, what state was Israel in at that moment? Like, what state of mind were they in? And when I did my research, they were under the government of Rome. Now, to put this thing in a perspective for you guys, it's like being in America and you having like China ruling you. So the China they're allowing you to stay in your territory, allowing you to do everything that you're doing. And what's so crazy about Rome? I mean, what was so, similar about Rome, you were able to serve any god that you wanted to serve. But when it came down to it, you still were gonna have to pledge allegiance to Caesar. You were still gonna have to do what they want you to do. So here's this nation that's coming from, it's been a while, but they started off as a theocratical rule nation, following God. They wanted a monarchy, and what's so amazing, like just eye-opening, every leader that got in position, it was some that came through, but they were still men. So every leader that got in position after that drove them to the point of being led by other nations. And now the principles that they hold dear. Well, it looks like you're done talking. Okay. The principles that they hold dear or whatever, it's like, okay, they can't really live them out like they wanted to. Like they could do what they wanted to, but they were still under the rule of whoever was, governing them. You see what I'm saying? So God could.
So, and like you said, put that in.
Hold on. Jay, go ahead, Jay. Hold on, man. What you say?
So really, they could believe what they wanted to, but they had to do what their governor said.
Exactly.
Sound familiar?
Now, sound familiar? and, and go ahead. Somebody about to say something.
I was gonna say that though, like putting that into perspective, because that's exactly how our lives are today. Like ultimately, believe what you want to believe, but if we make a law that says, like, look at what happened during COVID. If we make a law that says y'all can't be outside past a certain time, if they really want to enforce those types of laws, they can. So we still are under a government that you have to abide by the rules. Just like there's some rules that we don't even know about. There's laws that we don't even know. And you might be in a situation where you're like, oh snap, I didn't know I didn't know I couldn't walk right here on this sidewalk and on this certain piece of property. You know what I mean? Like, so I found that interesting thinking about that. I'm like, okay, so now I understand a little bit about why the Israelites were moving how they were moving.
You know what's so powerful about it? Thank you so much for sharing, because that brings us to another point. When Jesus came, he was bringing hope, but he was also establishing a new kingdom where we could be in close proximity and close relationship with God. A lot of Lord, when you had a religious leader, you had two primary religious leaders. You had the Sanhedrin, and then you had the Pharisees. Sanhedrin kind of is like the political religious leaders, and the Pharisees were the people that uphold the law. Now, why was the Pharisees, started? They were started because the Israelites came up out of captivity and they was able to go back into their land. And you had this group that was like, you know what? I don't ever want to go back into captivity again. Why did we go into captivity the first time? Is because we wasn't abiding by God's laws. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this group and we're going to see the laws of God, but then we're going to attach on more laws that's going to help us keep these laws.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop and I'll wait. What do you think about that? What are some thoughts about that?
So just to clarify, you said the Pharisees didn't want to be in captivity. So they're like, all right, let's look at what God is telling us to do in order for us to abide by these things that, the way he wants us to govern our lives is so that we don't break that. let's add on these extra rules that God didn't actually say, but that's going to help us keep the law that he has given us. That's supposed to be on our hearts. So it
Hmm.
shouldn't be this difficult, but let's do that.
Exactly. And
Okay.
what was crazy about that was, you know how it is. Once you do something, and it started off as a good thing because, you know, it allowed them to like, it allowed people to go beyond what the law was saying and kind of like put it into context. So, one law that they had is like, hey man, um this is a big thing. It just kept coming up or whatever, but it was like, you can't you can't, what would say, it was a lot of things on the Sabbath. I'm trying to be
But
cautious
hold
of how I
on.
say it. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Ken. This was just when you said that it made me realize now I understand why the Sabbath was such a big deal to them because they were under a theocracy. So a part of their law was to keep this day. So imagine if right now in the United States, the entire United States kept Sunday as a law. So like
Mhm.
anytime on Sundays, nothing is open. You know what I mean? Like you have to go to church, and you just can't, like that was the law. That was like how they kept the law, right? It was just about God. So imagine if our entire United States did that. So it would be like outrageous if you said, "Oh, I'm about to go wash my car on Sunday." Like, people would look at
Yeah,
you like, "You about to what?"
I
Like,
can't believe
you
you.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
But that
mean,
was just a
or
part of their society.
yeah, or guy had a lot of laws on being 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 unclean. So spiritually, unclean or just unclean in general or whatever. Like, when you read Leviticus, women on that time of the month, they could not be in close proximity of, their husbands and, their children and everything like that because they were literally deemed unclean. So they put other stipulations on that. They put other stipulations on even how to come, and talk to God and all these different things. But the stipulation that they will put on there was out of, first of all, it was out of fear. That's one thing. And second of all, it wasn't spirit led. A lot of these laws and things that they will put on to attach to the law it was it wasn't spirit led, so it wasn't done out of love. So when Jesus come in, he's establishing the new he's establishing a I won't say a new government, but reestablishing the actual government. And he's saying, look, everything that you thought is pretty much wrong. I understand that you wanted to make sure that you're good, but you're trying to create your own salvation. You're trying to save yourself. You guys don't want to go back into captivity. When you look at stories like the Tower of Babel, when Noah, the flood was over, the first thing that man created was a thing to be able to say, "Look at me, I did this." But also, it was another thing that they said, we're going to create something where God can never, kill us no more.
With
Even
a
if he flood
flood,
the earth,
right?
even if he flood the earth, I could get on this tall building and I'll, climb on this tall building and he's not going to be able to do that. And God said, look at what evil thing they're doing. They're here they go again, trying to define good and evil for themselves. They want to save themselves. So he said, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and confuse their language so they can stop what they're doing. He's constantly trying to save us from ourselves because left unattended, we'll self-destruct. So when you see Israel, the state of Israel in Matthew, when we come into Matthew and we start reading, like I said, you see people that are marginalized. You got these two religious groups that are like the top tier of the society, and they're walking around. You got the lawmakers, you know what I'm saying, which are the Pharisees or whatever, and they're walking around with this pious attitude, like, yes, you know, I uphold the law, and if you don't uphold the law, you are not going to be blessed. You are they would even say, you know, things like, okay, well, you know, if this guy has a birth defect or whatever, they're unclean. Like, get away from
No,
me,
they're like
unclean people.
sinners. They're
Yeah, they
sinners. Like,
sinners.
what are you doing so bad, or what did your parents do so bad that
So
you
bad.
disabled? And it's like, what? Like, just that way of thinking is not love. So what did Jesus do? He came down here and he said, "Oh, you disabled? I'm gonna touch you, and now you're good. You can walk around just like everybody else."
That's
Exactly.
what happened with the lady with the issue of blood.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
So it's a thing where you're looking at this and you're like, hold on. Now you see, now this has gone on years. So now the people have gotten used to how the Pharisees rock and how the Sadducees rock. So now you hearing this 'cause people will call him crazy. This crazy man in the wilderness telling you, hey, come out here, man, because we about to get a new kingdom. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a new kingdom about to arise. And you are one of those people that were marginalized from the society or whatever. And you're like, you know what? I'm just, I got, it's going to take faith for me to believe this, but you know what? I just want something different. So I'm just going to get away. I'm going to go out here to this desert place and I'm going to listen to this crazy man that has disheveled hair, and I'm going to eat that eats wild locusts and honey, and I'm going to listen to this man say, repent, meaning a turn away from how I think and I see things, and I'm going and I'm going to be baptized into this, you know, this body of water. And I have to truly believe that when I come up out of here, that I am going to be under a new ruling.
Wow.
That took faith. That took a lot of faith. I don't think when we read this story, we don't look at that. They were so desperate. Have you guys ever been desperate enough to do something that everybody else gonna say like that don't make any sense? I could tell you that I have. That's why we in Mexico. Everybody was looking at us like, "What? Y'all crazy, bruh. What? What is wrong with y'all?" But we felt that leading, we felt that tug. You know what I'm saying? We was like, bro, I don't know what it is. We gotta do something drastic. And it's the thing is, like, I want y'all to understand that, you know, just because when you start off, you're not gonna know everything. He's not gonna reveal everything to you. He didn't reveal everything to Abraham when he left. Let me just say this. He had a theocratical rule in Babylon. It was a theocratical rule, but it was a monotheistic. He was monotheistic, so that means that his grandparents and the Babylonians served multiple gods.
That's
So
polytheism.
I'm sorry, I'm polytheistic. I'm sorry, polytheism or whatever. So they served multiple gods. So he was like, for him to start his journey, he had to say, okay, I'm going to keep this theocratical rule, but I'm going to just turn it all the way. Lord, do you understand? The word repent means a turning away. Like, you literally are doing this. And for my prior service member, we hit a about face, bam, and we turn the other way and we walk this way. So what that means is your outlook and your perspective on life from this day on has to change. I need you to see the world through a biblical worldview, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to be a citizen of this government. It was amazing. I'm riding down the street today, and you know, we got this revelation to do this right here before we start the series. And um here, like I told you, they have just different laws. They drive how they drive. It is what it is. Hey, I ain't gonna. It is what it is. So we're driving, and in Mexico, it's okay for you to be on a busy street and you just pass the other person like this. If they driving slow, it's like, buddy, hey, you need to get up out my way, man. I got someplace to be. And I was like, dang, like it just something hit me. It's like, man, you can't do that in America. So I just kept on driving. I kept on driving. I kept on driving. So I come to a stop sign and then I just keep going or whatever. Then I see the police. They drive by. I had my seatbelt on, but I was just thinking, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We actually don't have to have our seatbelt on. And then some said, you can't do that in America. I was like, you're right. I can't do that in America. As I'm pulling back into my house from the store, it was like the Holy Spirit said, he said, you can't take American laws and live in Mexico. And I said, okay, I can't take American laws and live in Mexico. Why? Because a lot of those laws wouldn't be applicable. That word, you know how that is, but it wouldn't apply. I said, dang, that's crazy. But he said, the law of God in a theocratical rule with the one and only God, I can walk anywhere. I can walk anywhere with them laws. And what the crazy thing about it is, when I walk with those laws allow me to have peace among men. Like I wouldn't be in any type of danger with a man or woman with my perspective of how I think. Yes, you're gonna say, well, hey, if you go to Islam or you go to here, you're that or whatever. But when you look at the commandments, just look at the commandments, just the 10. I'm not talking about, the Moses or Mosaic laws. I'm talking about the 10 commandments. Look at the 10 commandments and show me on the 10 commandments where if you keep those commandments where you will be, in danger. I know the first one you're going to say, well, hey, if you serve any other gods, but don't have any other gods before me. Okay, don't have any other guys before them. You could obey the law and play, and I won't say pledge allegiance, but you can make sure that you obey what the king said. We have stories like that. Daniel. We have stories like we can make sure we pay the taxes. Jesus, because they tried to trip him up. We'll see stories like that where they tried to trip Jesus up and say, hey man, who should we pay taxes to? He said, look, hey, give Caesar's what is Caesar's. Is his face on a dollar? Okay, give him his taxes. But give God what is his, meaning your heart. Your heart belongs with God. So despite what anybody says, you're going to live under a government that requires you to have the fruit of the spirit, that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, all these different things that is no law under. It's no law under that. Go ahead, Nas.
You know what's also dope about the commandments that I don't think we realize is God, the only thing that God says about him is fear me and respect me. Just like Tasha said, like, dang, I realize that I don't fear God enough. I just do what I want to do. And then we wonder why we feel how we feel and all of because we trying to do what we want to do. We're trying to govern ourselves. And the 10 commandments are broken down to where the first 4 is all about relationship with him. Just fear me, respect me, trust me. I got you. Spend time with me. We good and you're going to have a great life. And then the last 6 commandments is, like you said, relationship. How you supposed to be with your parents? How's your parents supposed to be with you? You not taking someone's life. You not cheating on your spouse. You not stealing in any way, shape, or form. You not lying, like you said. And even the bearing false witness, we don't think about it because how oftentimes does like gossip and talking about people, how oftentimes does that cause issues within yourself? Because at the end of the day, you don't want anybody doing that to you. You know what I mean? So same thing. And then in you not coveting, like stop comparing. Don't compare your life to anybody else's life. Just live the life that you were meant to live. And like you said, govern yourself under my law so that you can feel the peace, you could feel the joy, you could feel the happiness, you could feel the patience, all of these things that you need to thrive, really and truly. Govern yourself under those laws and you'll have a better life.
I love that, man. And like you said, when you do that, it's no law against that. It's literally no law against that. Even if I don't want to covet, then I'm not gonna be on Instagram all the time. I won't get in trouble for not being on Instagram in any society, in any government or any nation. If I go wherever I go or whatever, nobody is going to say you're going to jail because you're not on social media. There's no law against that. But it's a law against being on, I wouldn't say a law against being on social media, but he said, think about it. Why would you put yourself in a situation where you're going to be tempted to covet? Why? Think about it. Why would you put yourself in a situation where you are tempting yourself? You working against yourself. So what Jesus was establishing when he came back was a new way of thinking, a new order. And that order started with a different perspective, how to see the world through a biblical lens. The fall started because we wanted to see things through how we wanted to see, but we don't understand that we are flawed individuals. God sees everything. He knows everything. So we don't have to wonder about the future when he's in power, when he's governing us, when we under a theocratical rule of the one and only God, we don't have to worry what's going to happen down the line. But if we are conformed to this world and these ideologies or whatever, yes, we're going to live in fear. And every time a new person come in, we're gonna wonder: is this the person that's going to help me live a more peaceful life or a more successful life? I'm sorry to tell you, it don't matter who gets in office, they're not going to help you. They're not going to help you, and they're just point blank period. So like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but I just wanted to break down. I wanted to give you guys some historical background on, this amazing story that we're about to embark on, this amazing journey that we're about to embark on, reading the book of Matthew. We're going to do things a little bit different. This time around, we're going to be sending out study guides to you, and we're going to be expecting you guys to take a look at them. You know what I'm saying? When you have time. And when you get
When
on the
you
line,
mean when you make time? We have to start saying when we have time because time
yeah,
is relative. You have to make it.
You got to make time. Here you go. Big mama, big mama vibes. I would say you putting out there like she like, look, make that time. And that's just real, man. Like for real. We make time for everything else. If I told you, hey, shoot, we planning a trip, well, you gonna make that time, right? So let's make time for God, man, and really get under this theocratical rule and allow the word of God to change our perspective. We should be hungering after the word, man. Hungering after the word, man.